Hi, I'm Sofia Martinez, and this is the story of how my passion for baking revealed the true ingredients of success and exposed the bitter taste of prejudice in my husband's elite family. For 3 years, I managed to keep my double life secret. By day, running my cozy neighborhood bakery, and by night, overseeing one of the country's most successful restaurant chains. I met James Winchester at one of my bakery's sidewalk tables. He was different from his family, kind, unpretentious, and genuinely interested in my small business dreams. When he told me his family owned the prestigious Winchester Financial Group, I almost dropped my piping bag. But James wasn't like the wealthy snobs I'd dealt with before. He loved my simple cinnamon rolls as much as the fancy restaurants his family frequented. What James didn't know, what nobody knew, was that I'd already built my own empire. 10 years earlier, I'd started Bella Cucina with my grandmother's recipes and a small loan. The authentic Italian restaurant chain had grown to 30 locations across the country, each one maintaining the secret family recipes and intimate atmosphere that made us famous. I operated everything through a holding company, keeping my name out of the press and focusing on quality over recognition. The problems began after our wedding. James's family, especially his mother Victoria, never approved of my quaint little hobby, as she called my bakery. Every family gathering became an exercise in condescension. "Darling," Victoria would say, swirling her wine glass, "surely now that you're a Winchester, you'll give up that little shop. It's hardly appropriate for our family image." I'd smile and change the subject, while secretly reviewing expansion plans for Bella Cucina's newest location. The irony? The Winchesters were regular customers at my restaurants. Victoria particularly loved hosting business dinners at our flagship location, bragging about her personal connection to the mysterious owner. Everything came to a head at this year's Thanksgiving dinner. The Winchester family had gathered at their mansion, and Victoria was in rare form. She just finished organizing a charity gala at Bella Cucina and couldn't stop talking about it. "The honor is so exclusive, so mysterious," she gushed. "That's real class, unlike some businesses that desperately advertise on sidewalk chalkboards." She shot a pointed look at me. I focused on my plate, thinking about the contract I'd signed that morning for Bella Cucina's international expansion. "Mother," James warned, but Victoria was just getting started. "I mean, really," she continued, "we're discussing a culinary empire here. Sofia, dear, this is what a real business looks like. Not some little bakery selling cupcakes to children." Richard, James's father, nodded in agreement. "The restaurant business is complex, Sofia. It requires sophistication, connections, capital, things that come with proper breeding and education." I felt James tense beside me, but I squeezed his hand under the table. After 3 years of these jabs, I'd grown used to them. Besides, I had other things on my mind, like the major business announcement Bella Cucina would be making tomorrow. Speaking of proper businesses, Victoria brightened. "I've invited the owner of Bella Cucina to speak at next month's Winchester Foundation dinner. They've never made a public appearance, but surely they wouldn't refuse me. I'm their best customer, after all." That's when James's sister Amanda chimed in with the final straw. "Well, at least we won't have to endure any more tedious bakery talk at these dinners. Let's keep the conversation to real businesses, shall we?" The table erupted in elegant laughter, while James started to protest. But I'd had enough. 3 years of hiding my success, of smiling through their insults, of watching them worship Bella Cucina while disdaining its true owner. It was time for a change. I pulled out my phone and sent a text I'd been holding onto for months. Somewhere across the city, my executive team was about to implement Protocol Winchester, a contingency plan I created for just this moment. "You're right, Amanda," I said quietly, rising from the table. "Let's talk about real business. In fact, why don't we continue this conversation tomorrow? Say, brunch at Bella Cucina's private owner's dining room." Victoria practically glowed. "You can't just reserve the owner's private room, Sofia. It's exclusively for—" "Trust me," I smiled, gathering my purse. "We'll have a table." As I walked out of the mansion, leaving behind a confused family and a quietly smirking James, who discovered my secret 6 months ago and had been waiting for this moment, I couldn't help but think that tomorrow's brunch would be the most important service Bella Cucina had ever hosted. After all, some dishes are best served cold. The next morning, I arrived at Bella Cucina's flagship location 2 hours before the scheduled brunch. The restaurant was different before opening hours. peaceful, full of possibility. As I walked through the kitchen, my heels clicking on the polished floors, the staff straightened to attention. They were used to seeing me in chef's whites or casual clothes, not the tailored Channel suit I'd chosen for today. Everything ready for Protocol Winchester? I asked Marco, my executive chef of 8 years. He grinned, already preparing the special menu we planned. All set, boss. Can't wait to see their faces when they taste your Nana's original tiramisu. At precisely 11 a.m., the Winchester family arrived. Victoria led the group, practically preening as she approached the maitre d'. "We're here for brunch with the owner," she announced grandly. "I'm Victoria Winchester." "Ah yes, Mrs. Winchester." Thomas, my longtime maitre d', maintained a perfect poker face. "Please follow me to the owner's private dining room." He led them through the main dining room, past the wine cellar I'd spent years curating, and up to the private floor. James caught my eye as they passed. He'd come separately to watch everything unfold. The slight smile on his face told me he was enjoying this as much as I was. The private dining room was my sanctuary, decorated with photos of every Bella Cucina location, awards we'd won, and most importantly, a large portrait of my grandmother in her original restaurant in Naples. Victoria immediately zeroed in on the empty chair at the head of the table. "Will the owner be joining us soon?" she asked, smoothing her silk blouse. "The owner is already here," I said quietly, stepping out of the shadows. The silence that followed was absolute. Victoria's face went through a remarkable series of expressions: confusion, disbelief, shock, and finally horror. Richard dropped his designer glasses. Amanda's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "This is some kind of joke," Victoria finally managed. You run a bakery." I smiled, taking my seat at the head of the table. "I run several businesses, actually. Bella Cucina is just the most famous one." I pressed a button, and a screen descended from the ceiling, displaying the restaurant chain's financial overview. 30 locations across the country, over $300 million in annual revenue, and about to expand internationally. "Impossible," Richard whispered, but his banker's eyes were already racing over the numbers, recognizing the truth. "Let me tell you a story," I said, nodding to the staff to begin serving brunch. "It starts with my grandmother's restaurant in Naples, where I learned that great food is about more than ingredients. It's about heart, about family, about tradition." As each course arrived, I explained its significance. The appetizer, my grandmother's original bruschetta recipe. The pasta, the first dish I perfected as a child. The main course, the signature dish that launched Bella Cucina's success. 10 years ago, I continued, I took those recipes and a dream and built something extraordinary. The bakery came later, a passion project where I could still work with my hands, still connect with the community. Victoria stared at her plate, her food untouched. "All those times I bragged about knowing the owner." "You did know me," I said softly. "You just didn't think I was worth knowing." James reached over and squeezed my hand, pride evident in his eyes. He discovered my secret during a surprise visit to my office 6 months ago. Instead of feeling betrayed, he'd been amazed, and more than a little amused at his family's ignorance. "But why keep it a secret?" Amanda asked, her earlier disdain replaced by genuine curiosity. "Because success isn't about recognition," I replied. "It's about creating something meaningful. Every time someone celebrates a special moment in our restaurants, every time a food critic praises our authenticity, every time your mother bragged about our service, that meant more than any personal acclaim." Just then, Thomas appeared with an envelope. "The papers you requested, Mrs. Martinez Winchester." I opened the envelope and slid the documents across to Victoria and Richard. "This is why I invited you here today. Bella Cucina is expanding, and we're looking for investors. The Winchester Financial Group has first right of refusal." Richard's hands trembled as he read the proposal. The projected returns were staggering. Victoria's face had turned an interesting shade of pale. "You're offering us a chance to invest? After how we've treated you?" I stood up, walking to my grandmother's portrait. "You once said the restaurant business requires sophistication, connections, and capital. You were wrong. It requires passion, integrity, and vision. But," I turned back to face them, "it also requires the ability to recognize opportunities, even when they come in unexpected packages." As the family absorbed this revelation, I nodded to the staff to bring out the final course. A perfect tiramisu made from my grandmother's recipe. "The question is," I said, taking my seat again, "are you ready to be part of a real business?" The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with one of our handmade bread knives. But this wasn't just about revenge or vindication. What happened next would determine not just our family's future, but the legacy of everything I built. Victoria Winchester stared at the tiramisu in front of her, the same dessert she'd raved about countless times, never knowing it came from the woman she dismissed as a simple baker. The silence in the private dining room was broken only by the gentle clink of silver against fine china as James enjoyed his dessert, a small smile playing at his lips. All this time, Richard said finally, his banker's composure cracking, "We've been advising you about business while you were." He gestured helplessly at the financial reports. "While I was building an empire." I finished for him. "Yes. But today isn't about embarrassing you. It's about moving forward, as a family and as potential business partners." I pressed another button, and new images appeared on the screen. Architectural renderings of Bella Cucina locations in London, Paris, and Tokyo. Market analyses, profit projections, and expansion strategies filled the following slides. "The international expansion will require significant capital," I explained. "The Winchester Financial Group has the global connections we need." But I paused, making eye contact with each family member. Any partnership would require some changes in how we relate to each other. Victoria set down her spoon, her hands trembling slightly. "Why even offer us this opportunity, after how we've treated you?" "Because success without family to share it with is empty," I said, thinking of my grandmother. "And because sometimes the biggest victory isn't proving people wrong, it's giving them a chance to prove themselves right." That's when Amanda, of all people, started laughing. Not her usual polite society laugh, but real, genuine laughter. "All those times we lectured you about business, while you were probably calculating international market penetration rates in your head." Her laughter broke the tension. Even Victoria cracked a smile, though tears glimmered in her eyes. Richard was still poring over the financial reports, his expression shifting from disbelief to admiration. "These numbers are extraordinary," he murmured. "Your profit margins, your growth rate, and you did this all without any major investment backing." I nodded. Every Bella Cucina location was built on reinvested profits. No loans, no outside investors. Just good food, good business sense, and my grandmother's recipes. "And the bakery?" Victoria asked quietly. "Why keep it when you have all this?" I smiled, thinking of that morning's fresh bread, the joy on children's faces when they pressed their noses against the display case. "The bakery keeps me grounded. It reminds me why I started in this business, not for profit, but for passion. Every cupcake I sell there means as much to me as every 5-star review Bella Cucina receives." James reached over and took my hand. "That's why I fell in love with," he said, addressing his family. "Not the success, which I didn't even know about, but the passion. The authenticity. Everything you've been dismissing is exactly what made all this possible." The next few hours transformed our family dynamics forever. Richard, the shrewd banker, finally saw me as a business equal. We spent hours discussing expansion strategies, with him offering valuable insights about international markets. Amanda, with her marketing background, immediately began brainstorming ideas for the global brand launch. "And Victoria?" she asked to learn how to bake. "I want to understand," she said, wiping away tears. "I want to understand how you built all this from flour and sugar and dreams." Over the next year, everything changed. The Winchester Financial Group became a key partner in Bella Cucina's international expansion. But more importantly, our family changed. Victoria started spending Wednesday mornings at my bakery, learning to make croissants and gradually understanding that there's no such thing as just a baker. Richard stopped talking about proper breeding and started talking about passion as the true key to success. Today, Bella Cucina has 50 locations worldwide. The original flagship restaurant now features a wall of family photos, including one of Victoria proudly holding her first batch of successfully baked baguettes. The bakery still opens at dawn, and I still spend at least one morning a week there, covered in flour, living the dream that started it all. Last month, at the opening of our Paris location, Victoria stood beside me as I cut the ribbon. "I was so wrong," she whispered. "Success isn't about appearances or pedigree. It's about having the courage to pursue your passion, even when others don't understand it. I squeezed her hand, thinking of how far we'd come. Sometimes, I replied, the greatest success isn't in proving people wrong. It's in giving them the chance to prove they can change. James watched us with a smile, probably remembering that Thanksgiving dinner that changed everything. These days, our family gatherings are different. We still talk about business, but now Victoria insists that everyone sample her latest baking attempts. Richard discusses investment strategies while helping knead bread. Amanda's marketing presentations are often interrupted by impromptu cooking lessons. And me? I run my empire, but I still get up at dawn to bake. Because success isn't about choosing between being small or big, humble or grand. It's about staying true to your passion while being open to life's possibilities, including the possibility that those who once looked down on you might someday stand beside you. Finally seeing the truth that was there all along. After all, the best recipes, like the best success stories, aren't about individual ingredients. They're about how everything comes together in